slides as well as the recording of the session with everyone. It does take a little while for the information to download, so hopefully it'll get to you this afternoon. If not this afternoon, should be first thing in the morning. Okay. China, I don't know if you can hear me yet. What is your last name? And Arnett, what is your last name? All right. Bear with me just a second. I'm trying to write down everybody's name who's participating today. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. So, but before we get started, I do want to share a few housekeeping items that'll help things run a little bit more smoothly. If you're not speaking, it is helpful if you mute your microphone or phone. That'll help us cut down on static. And also, sometimes if you had like people on call or dogs barking, children crying, that sort of thing. So do make sure if you're not talking, please mute your phone. Also, if you ask a question, it's very helpful if you state your name. That way I know who has the question, because sometimes I need to follow up with you later, and it just makes it easier all the way around. So before we get started, just wanted to share those. And I'm Scout Ranges, and again, just thank you for joining us today. All right, so here's how this session is going to work today. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that'll take approximately 30 minutes to get through. At the end of the presentation, I'll open it up for general questions. Having said that, this presentation is very informal, so I encourage you to ask any questions at any point throughout the presentation. If you have a question that is actually going to be addressed in a slide or two, I might ask you to put that question on hold just for a moment till we get there, but otherwise I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And as I indicated, this session is being recorded, and once it's concluded, I'll send a copy both of the slides and the recording to everybody that I have a contact information for. So this may sound a little silly, but if you can't hear me, please post a question or please indicate so in the chat box. All right, hold on just a second here. So Arnett. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through the roll call, everybody on my list that I was able to get a name, and I'm going to do a chat box here real quick. Bear with me one moment. According to my notes, great. According to my notes, oh, Arnett can't hear. All right, bear with me 1 minute. Okay, I'm just going to go through a roll call here to make sure I've got everybody. When I call your name, just say here or present or whatever. I just want to make sure that I've got everyone accounted for. According to my list, I think we've got about 37 people participating today, so full house. Okay, Alexis Davis, can you hear me okay? Alexis Davis, can you hear me? Okay, yes. Great, thank you. Okay. Yes. Sophia, I've already chatted with you. Courtney, can you hear me okay? Courtney Pate?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Mark Levy, you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Dana DeHart?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Reagan Gregory?
Yes, I can hear you.
Super. Joyelle, I already chatted with. Noah, I had chatted with. Kwanzaa, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. And I apologize if I mispronounce any of these names. Okay, Amber, I spoke with already. Kobe, can you hear me okay? Kobe Sharp?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Great, super. Kadisha Wilson, you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Latoya Stewart?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we already spoke. Okay. Isabella Zhao, you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Eleanor Sullivan?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Thank you. Katie McKinley?
Yes, sir.
Vanessa Jackson?
Yes, I can.
Nicole Gregory, I don't know if that's Nicholas.
Nicole, yes, I can hear you.
Nicole, okay, great. Jocelyn Bennett?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Michael Lynch?
Coming through fine.
Okay. Lindsay Thompson?
I can hear you.
Great. Leah Simmons?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Katie Smith?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hannah Wilkin?
Yes, hi, Scott.
Hello.
Hi.
Nicole Hoffner?
Yes, sir.
All right. Caitlin Colo, I think we already did that. All right. Sierra
can
Dunn,
hear
you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Yolanda Green?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Tim Kowalski?
Yes. I can.
Great. Tamala Hammond?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Ewan Fan?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Trilinda?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Arnett, any better luck on the volume this time? Sounds like no. Okay. All right. Lizette Alvarez?
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. China?
Yes, I can hear you.
China, what's your last name?
Wade, W-A-D-E.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody who's on that I do not have, did not call their name? I want to make sure everybody gets a copy of this presentation afterwards.
Arnett,
I'm sorry?
Arnett, I didn't hear you, so I just logged back in.
Oh, you can hear now. Yay. Okay, good. Good. Okay, good. All right, Griffiths, good. And it looks like Sherilyn is joining us right now. All right. I apologize. I know that took several minutes to do that, but I wanted to make sure that we,
Excuse me, Scott.
yes.
Hi, I didn't hear my name. It's Sage Allison.
Thank you, Sage. All right. Is there anybody else I missed? Okay, Sherilyn, can you hear me okay? All right. Again, I'm going to share the copy of this presentation with everyone afterwards, so thank you again for participating today. All right, here's the agenda for today. As I mentioned earlier, this is very informal, so feel free to ask questions along the way. Also, when it's all over, we'll be sending everybody a copy of the presentation. I see Tanika just joined us. Welcome, Tanika. Can you hear me okay? She may still be connecting. Okay, so here's the agenda for today's session. Some of these topics are going to be true across all nursing programs, and some are going to be specific to the USC College of Nursing. You will see MEPN written several places. The official title of our program is Master's Entry to Practice, but I'll be using the abbreviation MEPN throughout this presentation. Before we move on, does anybody have any specific questions before we get started? And I'll make sure when we get to that portion of the presentation that I address that question. So any questions before we dive in? Okay, well, again, this is informal, so feel free to ask questions along the way. Let's move on. I think it's important before we get started to note that earlier this year, the USC News and World Report named us the #1 public university for online master's nursing programs and #2 overall in the entire country. This is the 6th consecutive year we've been in the top 10, and I just thought it'd be important to share with you what the reputation of the USC College of Nursing is. All right, let's move on. So what is the MEPN program? The MEPN program is a program that allows individuals who have a background in something other than nursing the opportunity to gain the skills and experience necessary to become direct patient care nurses. After completing the program, you'll be able to sit for the NCLEX exam and earn your RN license. This is the same licensure you would receive if you completed either an ADN or a BSN program, but it's quicker and you'd actually graduate with a master's degree than if you do one of the other programs. If you'd like to specialize in a specific area and earn your NP license, you'd have that opportunity after completing the MEPN program. You need to enroll in what's called a postmaster certificate program, and you can specialize in whatever area you're interested in. For example, we've got most postmaster's programs in FNP, psych mental health, adult gerontology, acute care, and so on. Because you'd already have a master's degree when you complete the MEPN program, you'd be entering as a postmaster student in your program, and typically that's shorter and you complete it a little bit quicker. Okay. It's also important to note that this is the first program of its kind in the state. So proud of that as well. And as most of you probably know, this program just received state approval from the State Board of Nursing about 3 weeks ago. We got final approval. All right, so who should get the MEPN? And the MEPN degree is good for anyone who has a bachelor's degree in something else who wants to become a nurse. I also want to emphasize that there are other careers in the healthcare field that don't require a nursing degree. So don't feel that if you want to get into healthcare, that nursing is your only option. There are many other opportunities out there, whether it's medical records, human resources, phlebotomy, so on and so forth. There are many other options out there, but this is a good option for people who want to pursue a specific career in nursing. So what's included in the MEPN program? The program is a total of 23 classes or 76 credits. You can complete it in 5 semesters or just under 2 years. Courses are taught in a combination of face-to-face, hybrid, and 100% online formats.
Oh, wow.
The anticipated schedule is that students will be on campus roughly 2 days per week and in clinicals or lab 2 days per week. The specific schedule for which days you'll be on campus or in labs or clinicals hasn't been determined yet. All right. Again, just want to, if you're not talking, it does help to mute your microphone. That way we don't get a lot of background noise. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Oh, please go ahead.
You said 2 days on campus and how many days in clinical lab?
Roughly, you should anticipate 2 days on campus for classes and 2 days either in clinical or doing the, I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, simulation.
Okay.
So
Hi, Scott. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I also had a question. Are those traditional fall and spring semesters, or are they like consecutive semesters?
It's good question. It's 3 semesters a year. So you'd be starting in the spring. You'd go spring, summer, fall, and then you'd go spring 2022, graduate at the end of summer 2022. So it's a year-round program. It does have the traditional breaks, for example, Christmas break. It's got about a week break between the spring and summer semester and about a 3-week break at the conclusion of the summer semester before the fall semester begins.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Lindsay Thompson again. I have a couple more questions about this slide.
Sure. Tell you what, let me do 1 or 2 more paragraphs here, and then we'll ask questions, because I know there's going to be several more questions. So, all right. In addition to the coursework you see here, you'll have clinical requirements that will be in a local healthcare setting. This is where you'll get your clinical exposure. The program requires students to complete 784 total clinical hours. Students will have clinicals every semester, and the specific number of hours will vary for each course. Clinicals will be assigned, and they'll all take place in the Columbia area. In addition, students will also have a total of 70 hours that they'll do in our state-of-the-art simulation lab right here on campus. And this is where you'll practice various skills, and you'll also satisfy some of your clinical requirements here. It is required that everyone be enrolled full-time, which varies between 13 and 17 hours per semester. From each semester is a little bit different. And because of the number of courses and clinical requirements, you're cautioned about trying to work while taking courses. It is possible for you to work part-time, but you would need to have a pretty flexible work schedule. Okay. Now, I know there's a lot of questions on this. I think it was Cindy, I believe, had a question. Or whoever was had a question. Go ahead.
It's Lindsay Thompson.
Lindsay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lindsay.
No, that's okay. Is this set up so that you kind of enter with a group and you all take the exact same classes every semester and there's no variation, there's no options to the days and times, and you kind of work straight through as a group?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so exactly. It is a cohort model, so everybody's traveling through at the same pace. You'd be in the same classes. Let me look at one thing really quick. One thing that I did not mention here is the cohort. We're hoping to have 32 students this first cohort. You know, depending on the applicant pool, it may be slightly smaller if we don't feel that we've got 32 students that are good candidates for the program currently, or maybe they haven't satisfied the requirements. But we do anticipate that class of 32 will travel through everything together, and the schedule is pretty lockstep. You need to complete the first semesters, all first semester's classes before you can move on the second semester, so on and so forth.
Are all the classes set, or is there any variation for choice at all?
There are, I believe, 2 electives. Let me look at something real quick.
Okay.
Yes, there are 2 electives throughout the program. Would be your 4th semester, which would be, if you started this spring, it'd be spring 2022, and then your final semester, summer 2022. And by that point, you'd have several other classes under your belt, so you'd have a better sense of maybe what additional classes you would like to take that you haven't taken so far.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? I know there's a lot of information on this one slide.
I do have another one. This is Lindsay again. Once this cohort starts in the winter, spring, is there going to be another, I guess, group starting in the summer and then the fall, or is it going to be a once a year?
Right.
Do you have any idea?
Right. Right now, this program is scheduled to meet once a year, and that's during the spring semester. So if you don't get admitted for this term, or maybe you still have some prerequisites you need to complete and you're not able to start in spring 2021, then we'll be admitting another class to start in spring 2022. And the application window is going to be a little bit different for that, but I'll share that in a few slides further in the presentation. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to keep moving on. Again, this is pretty informal, so don't expect this question. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I do have a question. This is Dejana.
Okay, John.
Will this information be available like on YouTube or otherwise in case we didn't catch the beginning part of the Zoom meeting?
Yeah, I don't think you caught the beginning, but at the end of the day today, I'm going to be sending both a copy of the slides as well as a recording to everyone. You know, it does take a little while for the recording to upload, so if you don't get it by the end of the day, it should be first thing in the morning. But let me also say that if for some reason you don't get it by noon tomorrow, please reach out to me. It means either I didn't have your contact information or maybe it went to a bad email address or something.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions before we move on?
Hi, this is Lisa. I just have a really quick question regarding the semester. I know you're saying spring. Are we talking January or May? So some schools say spring and they mean May. So
Sure. Our spring semester starts in January. The official first day of classes is January 11th.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Yes, we've got 3 semesters. So the spring semester starts in January, the summer semester starts in May, and the fall semester begins in August. Okay. All right, let's keep moving on. Again, feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation here. So what are the prerequisites? There are 5 prerequisite courses for the program: Anatomy and Physiology 1 and 2, Microbiology, Chemistry, and a Human Growth and Development class. All the science classes should have the associated lab with them. You must earn a C or better in each of these courses, and they should have been completed within the last 10 years. Now, if you're currently working in the healthcare field, it is possible that we may be able to extend the deadline slightly, like if you had a class maybe 11 or 12 years ago. But I will tell you that our preferences are going to be to those individuals who have completed everything within the last 10 years. These courses can be completed at USC or elsewhere. If you completed them somewhere else, you're encouraged to take a look at our transfer table to make sure that you have the appropriate course. Likewise, if you still have a course that you need to complete, you're encouraged to get approved ahead of time, because we don't want you taking a class that isn't going to satisfy the requirement. You know, we don't want you taking or paying for anything that's not going to help you in the long run. Excuse me. You may apply for the program this year if you're still enrolled in one or more of these courses, as long as you'll have the course completed prior to the start of the program. So if you're taking a class right now and it wraps up in December, that's fine, as long as it'll be completed and all grades will be submitted prior to the start of classes in January. All right. Any questions about courses or prerequisites?
This is Lindsay Thompson again.
Yes, ma'am.
Taking a course that's, or courses this semester, as far as the application and getting transcripts, would we get transcripts up through the semester? Does it show that we're in the courses now? How would that work for our application?
Okay, good question. So a couple things. So I know I'm just going to use an example. I saw some people, for example, are taking a course or two at Midlands Tech. Send me all your completed well, not send me, but upload all your completed transcripts with your application. If you're currently enrolled in a course, get a copy of that unofficial transcript and upload that as well. Something that shows that you're currently enrolled, and we can use that.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Scott. This is Leah. I have a question.
Yes.
I completed AMP1 probably close to 8 years ago now, and I still need to do AMP2. But if it would come to a point to where I can't apply for this cohort, but would be looking for the next one, and I take AP2, but AP1 may have expired by then, do I need to go back and take AP1 again and kind of be preemptive of that? Or because I completed AP2, it'll kind of just go together, even though AP1 was a while ago?
Well, if AP1 is at 8 years, a year from now, it'd be at 9 years. So you'd still be within that 10-year window.
Okay.
If you were at 10 years right now or 9 years right now, I'd say you might want to think about retaking it. And we have had some people who've retaken some courses, either because they're past 10 years or just they didn't feel that they did as well as they wanted to do, and to make themselves more competitive, they retook it to get a better grade.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about the prerequisites? Great. Okay. Let's move on. So what's required for admission? So to be eligible for the program, you must have successfully completed a bachelor's degree from a nationally accredited program. We're looking for applicants who have an overall GPA of 3.0 or higher in all prior coursework. You must have successfully completed or are currently enrolled in the prerequisite courses. Now, and then the final thing there is, if you're admitted, you'll be required to earn BLS certification prior to the start of the program in January. The BLS, which stands for Basic Life Support, that training takes about 3 to 4 hours, and you complete it in one day, like a morning or an afternoon. After you find out your admission status, you should have roughly about 2 months to get that completed, and we'll share details about any upcoming trainings that we're aware of. I know I've already had a few people reach out about that. That's not something you have to have prior to admission, but if you are admitted, you do have to have the BLS training prior to the start of the spring semester. Any question on this slide?
Yes, Leah, again, one more question. So when you say cumulative GPA of all prior coursework, would that take into consideration a bachelor's as well as a master's, and then kind of average out that GPA, or are you specifically only looking at a bachelor's GPA?
We're going to look at everything you ever took. If you took an English class in high school for college credit, we're going to look at that. If you've got a master's degree, we're going to look at that. And truthfully, you don't need to worry about calculating your GPA, because we'll do that. We're going to look at all the courses that you took and come up with that. So don't worry too much about that.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Yes, sir. I don't know if you mentioned it already. When do you guys plan to start sending acceptance notices? Or
Great question.
make that
I did
decision?
not have that question yet. So the application deadline is October 15th. Typically, it takes the graduate school a few days to get everything processed. I'm hoping to get all the finished packets sent to the department for review by the following week, at the end of the following week. Typically, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for admissions decisions. However, because we've got such a tight window, we're going to try to get them out by early November, which is, pretty short turnaround in about 2 or 3 weeks or so. So try to early to mid-November, hopefully at the latest, you would know your decision. And we will let you know whether you get admitted or if you get declined. We're not just going to tell just the admits and let the declines hang out there. We'll let you know one way or the other. It's also possible that we may have some people on a waiting list based on what happens with the other applicants. All right. Any other questions before we move on?
Yes, sir. This is China.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the successful completion of the bachelor's degree, is that for nursing, or you can have a bachelor's degree in biology, or how does that work?
Actually, it has to be something other than nursing. So, so far I've seen applicants with bachelor's degrees in art history, chemistry, biology, psychology, I think healthcare administration. Those are the ones that I remember off the top of my head, but it has to be something other than nursing.
Other than nursing. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so
excuse me, Scott.
Go ahead.
I have a question on the last slide. So you said that the cumulative GPA, the minimum is 3.0, but you wouldn't happen to know what the average is for grad applicants or people that are accepted into grad school at USC? You wouldn't happen to know the GPA generally for them?
I will say that it varies for every program. Because this will be the first cohort for the MEPN program, we don't know because we haven't ever admitted anybody to the MEPN.
Right, I was about to ask, what has it been in the past? And I was like, wait.
Yeah. So I will say, for example, our family nurse practitioner program is our most competitive program to get into. And that's based on the number of applicants. For example, we had 100 people apply for the fall for an incoming class of 42 students. Okay, so because there were so many applicants, they could be a little bit more selective. Typically, the GPA for that program is around, of admitted students, is around 3.5. Now, when I say the average is 3.5, that means that there's people above that and below that.
Right.
Okay, so for our other programs, it's going to be a little bit lower. For this program, because it's the first time we're admitting in class, I suspect we may be a little bit more flexible, just based on what and truthfully, it's all based on the applicant pool. If we have 100 applicants for 36 spots, then we can be a lot more selective. You know, if we get 40 applicants for 36 slots, we kind of have to look at the pool and go with what we have.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right.
Can you,
go ahead.
Sorry. Can you tell us about how many people have been interested in the program to know for an idea of what the pool might be?
You really don't want to know that number. Hold on just a second. So far, I have 325 inquiries.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah. Now, having said that, certainly not all those people will apply. I was reviewing applications earlier this week, and I think right now there's less than 20 applications submitted. Now, I know that after this presentation, there'll be several more people that submit applications. Also, with the application deadline being next week, I suspect we'll get a flood of applications next week. So I expect we'll probably be in the neighborhood of, I'm going to guess 50, but it's really hard to tell. And again, the number of applicants and the strength of the applicant pool, really determines a lot of, as far as the GPA and that sort of thing. And also, I don't want to say that the GPA is the sole factor of consideration for admission. They look at your goal statement, why you say you want to do the program. They look at your recommendations, what they have to say about you. and they also look at your work experience. And I'll also say, going back to the transcript part, they don't just look at the cumulative GPA. They look at specific courses that you had and see, how did this person do in their science classes, or what classes did they struggle in? Trying to think of what, also maybe your first semester or two in college, you were, as I like to say, young and stupid and just didn't do too well. And then maybe you were a career changer and finally found your focus and then got a 4.0 from there out. They look at things like that. All right, any other questions? All right, I'll share some more details here, and then we'll have another opportunity for questions at the end of this. So interested applicants must submit an online application to the graduate school. The application should include your goal statement and a current copy of your CV or resume. The goal statement or personal statement should describe why you're interested in becoming a nurse and indicate how the program will advance your professional goals. If there are any unique circumstances in your academic or career background, this would be an appropriate place to include that information. We also ask that you try to keep your goal statement brief. If possible, you encourage to keep it to no more than 2 pages. You'll also need to include 3 recommendations from individuals who are masters or doctorally prepared. I know when you're filling out the application, it'll actually say they need to be masters or doctorally prepared in the healthcare field. You don't need to worry about the healthcare field part. That's for our other nursing applications. You just need to have references who are masters or doctorally prepared. When you complete the application, you'll list the name and email address of your references. They will receive an email from us. When they open the email, there will be a link to our recommendation form online. They can complete it and submit it completely electronically. They don't need to write out a letter of recommendation. If they have a letter of recommendation that they would like to attach to it, they're certainly welcome to, but they do not have to do that. We need to receive copies of all transcripts from anywhere that you receive college credit. As I mentioned earlier, whether it was in high school as a dual enrolled student, whether it was undergrad, maybe you took one course someplace close to home during the summer. If you've got a graduate degree, where you've got credit, we need copies of those transcripts. We can use unofficial copies of the transcripts for the application review process. If you are admitted, we'll need official copies at that point. Some people will go ahead and request official copies right at the start, and that's fine, but we can use either for the review process.
Mr. Rangers, I have a question about the recommendation.
Go ahead.
Yes, when you submit your applications and you have your recommendations, do they need to have their forms in by the deadline as well, or is that just for your application?
That's a great question. Yes, everything must be submitted for your application to be forwarded for review. Now, I will say the application deadline is October 15th. It's going to take a little while for the graduate school to process everything, so I'm assuming by the end of the following week, all completed applications will be forwarded for review. And I'm actually I've got some notes here in just a minute. So tell you what, let me get to that in just a second, and then I'll open it up for a few more questions. So you do see that we do not require GRE or any other standardized test scores. And most of the information listed here, most of that can be uploaded with your application. And for several of them, like your goal statement and your CV, resume, you have to upload those before you can submit your application. We have to receive all required documents before your application can be sent to the department for review. Now, after you submit your application, you can log back in and see what items have already arrived and been processed. Do not feel that you have to wait to submit your application until after all your recommendations have arrived. That actually slows down the process. Once you're ready, go ahead and submit your application. If some of your recommendations have already arrived, that's fine. If they haven't, that's fine as well. I do encourage you to submit your application in all required materials prior to the deadline. It can take a week or more for all the items that are submitted to get processed by the graduate school. Once everything has been processed, we'll review your application and let you know if you have any outstanding items. The earlier you submit your application, the more time you have to submit any missing items. If you wait until the last minute to submit your application, you may only have a day or two to get any missing items in. And it's not at all uncommon for either transcripts or recommendations to take more time than the other items to arrive. Okay, what other questions here about the application process?
This is, oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Thank you. This is Dejana. I wanted to know if you said 2 or 3 recommendations.
3.
Okay.
And again, they need to be masters or doctorally prepared. They do not have to be in the healthcare field. If you want to include somebody in the healthcare field, that's fine, but that's not a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Scott, this is China. I have a question.
Yes.
What if you attended USC before? Do you also have to pay and do the online application all over, or is it like a readmit application?
You would need to do a new application because it's, if you attended previously, probably was as an undergrad, unless you were in the College of Nursing and then changing to another College of Nursing program, actually you wouldn't be eligible for the MEPN program if that was the case. So yeah, you would need to do a new application. But if you were a prior USC student, you don't need to request your transcripts. We can get access to those. If you have an unofficial copy, you're certainly welcome to attach that to your application. That'll actually speed up the review process. But we're not gonna, you know, if you don't, that's fine. We can pull your transcript from the archives.
Okay, thank you.
Who else? I think there were 1 or 2 other questions out there.
Hi, this is Caitlin. I have a question about transcripts.
Okay.
If you took a course in high school for college credit,
Yes.
and that is listed on my transcript from where I earned my bachelor's degree, do I have to also go through the community college where I took the course, or if it's on my transcript from my bachelor's degree program, is that sufficient?
We need to get the transcript from whoever the original host school was. So if it was a community technical college, yes, we need English 101 or whatever it was from that original source.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other questions here?
Yes, I have one more question. This is Lindsay. If one of my schools that I attended only gave me the option of getting my transcripts mailed, and it said it could take a while to get mailed, should I go ahead and submit my unofficial transcripts for that school just to make sure they're in, and then wait for the full transcripts to show up whenever they get it done?
Sure, sure. Yeah, absolutely. If you've got unofficial transcripts, go ahead and submit them. That's going to make everything go faster. Again, some people will go ahead and request the official now just so we've got it. Either way is fine, but the quicker you can get us everything, the quicker we're going to be able to review your application and move forward.
Okay.
Any other questions before we move on?
Excuse me, this is Isabella.
Yes.
I'm wondering if there any other requirement for the international student.
Okay, let me think this through. For international students, there should not be anything additional. I know for international students, they need to have a certain percentage of their classes on campus and not online. You should be able to satisfy that requirement with the way the program's set up. You know, for our other nursing programs, you need to have a nursing license within the US, but nobody's already a registered nurse for this program, so you don't need to worry about that. No. Now, one thing that you would need to do is, depending on where you did your undergraduate degree, if it's from an international source, we would like to see those transcripts evaluated.
Yes. Is there any requirement of GRE or TOEFL?
Not well. That if you have not earned a degree from a U.S. school, then you would not need to submit a TOEFL score. If you have not earned a degree from a U.S. school, then you would need to submit a TOEFL score.
Okay, so so what I need is TOEFL. I don't need the GRE score, right?
No, you do not need GRE. Nobody needs GRE.
Okay, only TOEFL, right?
Right. If you have not earned a degree from a U.S. school, yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's hit the deadlines here. So we're taking applications right now for the spring semester. Again, the application deadline is October 15th. Classes start, as I mentioned earlier, January 11th. Again, I strongly encourage you to submit everything prior to the deadline, both so the graduate school has time to get everything processed. And I will say that it can take the graduate school a week or more to process everything that gets submitted, especially if you wait to the deadline. That's when everybody else submits everything and more items are going to need to be processed. So that takes even longer. So submit your application and the required items before the deadline. Will help get everything matched up. Now, as mentioned earlier, our next cohort will start spring 2022. The typical application deadline for spring admits is April 1st through June 30th. We've actually had a discussion recently about extending that deadline through the summer. That way, if anybody had any prerequisite courses they needed to complete, they complete them either during that spring or summer term and still be eligible for the fall. Classes for next year, well, actually 2 years, will start January 10th, 2022. And as long as I have your contact information, if you're not applying for this term, I'll send you the, excuse me, the new application deadlines for 2022 when they're available. Any questions about deadlines or when courses start? Okay, great. All right, now, it was mentioned earlier about sending items to the graduate school. Some schools will send transcripts electronically, and that's fine. That's official to us. Some schools will only mail them. Either way is fine. If you're going to have them mailed, please have them mailed to this address. If you're going to have them emailed, please have them emailed to this address. One thing to be careful about, and this seems to happen more, say, with like smaller community technical colleges, things like that. Don't just let them say, oh, we're going to mail it to USC, because what often happens is they will automatically mail it to the undergraduate admissions office, okay? The undergraduate admissions office has no idea that you're applying for our graduate program, and they won't forward it to the graduate school. Your application will sit there, and you'll never have a chance to be admitted because your application is incomplete because we don't have your transcript. If you're going to have it mailed, make sure it gets mailed to this address. Again, once you submit your application, you can always log back in and see what's been processed and added to your file. We will let you know when your application is complete and gets sent to the department for review. As mentioned earlier, it's not unusual for things like transcripts and recommendations to take a little bit longer than other items to arrive. All right, any questions here? Also, if you have to submit something after you submit your application, you can send it to that grad app email address right there. So, you know, if I reach out to you and say, hey, I'm missing an unofficial transcript from this school, if you've got it, after you've submitted your application, you can go ahead and send it to that email address there. Okay, yes, sir, somebody had a question.
Sorry, this is Hannah.
Yes.
I just had a question. So I sent away for my official transcripts from my school, and I had to mail it in, like even just the request form. So I think that would come a little bit later than the October 15th window. Is that okay?
As long as it comes by the following week, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Past that is probably maybe going to be too late.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions about submitting items?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the application, if you already submitted your unofficial, is that okay? Do you have to, you said when we get the acceptance letter, we have to send in the official, am I correct?
You don't need to worry about the official right now. Yeah, we can use the unofficial for the review process. That's not a problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. I've included a couple links here that I thought would be helpful. The first one is simply to our website. Feel free to look through. That's got information about admission, curriculum information, as well as an FAQ page. The second link there is to our university transfer table. That means if you took a course someplace else and you want to make sure it satisfies our course requirements, you can check there. Again, if you still have prerequisites you need to take, either check there or check with us, because we don't want you taking classes that aren't going to satisfy our prerequisites. And then the final link there is to our graduate school application. Once again, I'm going to be sending this presentation to everyone, so you'll be able to get those links at that time. All right. I know that we've covered a whole lot of information, and I'm sure there's several questions out there that haven't been asked yet. So you're up. What kind of questions do people have?
Hi, this is Jocelyn again.
Yes.
I have a question regarding like financial aid and scholarship opportunities.
Sure.
What would we do? I know we have to fill out the FAFSA in order to get financial aid, but as far as like scholarship through USC, where would we go to find those?
Sure. Okay. Let me just also say, if you're not currently asking a question, do encourage you to microphone. We're getting some background noise. Sounds like somebody might be on call or working in an office. So we encourage all students to complete the FAFSA form. They may qualify for federal financial aid, or they may be eligible for a loan. In addition to that, all admitted students are sent information about College of Nursing scholarships. Last year, the college gave out almost $500,000 in scholarships, and that's only specifically for nursing students. In addition to those, we also encourage people to apply for any other scholarships that they see. Some of them are specific to nursing, some are just general. Hey, anybody from Kershaw County is eligible for this scholarship. And then also throughout the program, we'll be aware of other things, and we share those throughout your time in the program. You know, for example, a week or two ago, we received some information about a loan forgiveness program. You can have up to 85% of your loan forgiven, depending on if you work in a specific environment. It was, if you work in a rural community, a few weeks before that, there was something about if you plan to go on to teaching in a teaching format, then you can have a certain amount of your loan forgiven for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
My question's a follow-up on the scholarships.
Yes.
Are there going to be any fellowships or GTAs, GRAs available?
Not specifically within the College of Nursing. Now, you may be able to, you know, the Office of Financial Aid does post kind of general open campus jobs, which includes teaching assistants and things like that, but there won't be anything specifically within the College of Nursing for those.
Okay. And the second question I have is, as far as all the scholarships and things you mentioned, since this is such a short application period and quick turnaround time, are any of those going to be available to us to start, or would it be something that we would need to look at for a future semester?
It's probably you would not have the turnaround time to be eligible for the spring semester. I cannot answer for the summer semester. Truthfully, the summer semester is at the end of the financial fiscal year. So what may happen is they may have to look at what money is still available at that point. You may be eligible, or it may be that your first semester of eligibility would actually be fall 2021, which is typically when they award the scholarships, is for fall, spring, summer. And that's
right. So we missed all of the beginning part of that.
For all intents and purposes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Hi, Scott. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
My question, thank you. My question is related to finances as well. What is the total cost of the program?
Oh, great question. Okay, so for in-state students, tuition is going to be $770.25, so $770.25 per credit hour. For out-of-state students, it's $1438 per credit hour. And as previously mentioned, it's a total of 76 credits. So whatever your number is, you just go times 76. Now, I will say that, again, we try to award as many scholarships as we can. You know, based on the timing right now, there might not be any scholarship availability for either spring or summer for this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, mine's just a follow-up on that cost. When it says 77 or 770.25 per credit hour, there's going to be additional fees on top of that for labs and things like that?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. The number I just gave you is a tuition cost, which is certainly going to be the largest chunk of the expenses. You will have a one-time matriculation fee. You'll have to buy books. There'll be a technology fee. So there'll be some other things, but the number that I just gave you is certainly going to be the largest portion. I don't know if it's going to be 85% of your bill, but it would be, a pretty hefty portion of it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to be a VA student. So when will the course list be available? Because we are required to submit that.
We've got a tentative list of classes. What we don't know is the specific schedule for, okay, so let's just say that, hold on a second, let me pull something up so I can look at it. Can you guys see this? The schedule?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. I will send you a copy of the proposed schedule. So your first semester, you're scheduled to take a pathophysiology class, pharmacotherapeutics course, health assessment, nursing fundamentals, and theoretical and conceptual foundations of nursing, okay? We can tell you what the courses will be for the first semester. What we don't have finalized yet is the specific schedule. So if it is health assessment on Monday and Wednesday, or is it Tuesday, Thursday? Is it in the morning, in the afternoon? That we don't know yet. We're still trying to finalize some of those details. But I will send a copy of the schedule along with the slides and a copy of the recording.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Grangers, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I didn't want to step on anybody's toes, so can I talk, or was somebody else trying to talk?
You've got the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, so I do know some nursing programs, they require that students have malpractice insurance where they're doing clinical hours in facilities, as well as students need to have health insurance through the school.
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay if I, have private health insurance through my job currently? And are we required to have the malpractice insurance?
Okay, I'm going to answer the second question first. So the malpractice insurance is covered through our relationships with the different clinical agencies that you'll be working at. We're going to assign those clinical sites. So, we've got that taken care of. As far as the insurance, all university students have to have insurance. You have the option of either buying university insurance or submitting proof of satisfactory competitive insurance. That's something you would do after you're admitted with the health services office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mr. Scott, this is Trilinda Little. I have a question about classes that transfer.
Yes, ma'am.
If we go on a transfer site and we see that some of our classes are enlisted for transfer, will you guys review that information before making a decision?
Absolutely, yeah. So great question. So what Trilinda was asking is, if you go on the transfer table and let's say that you went to Lander University and your chemistry course, for whatever reason, is not listed there, that doesn't mean that it won't transfer. It just means that course has not been evaluated by the registrar's office. So what we would need is a copy of the syllabus for that course, and then we would review it and say, oh yes, that covers the requirements that we need for that course. Or we might say, oh, you know what, it doesn't go into enough depth that would not satisfy that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
I have one. This is Dana. I know that the College of Nursing does a lot of research, so I'm wondering, in this program, will we have an opportunity to do any kind of research with faculty, especially Dr. Harris or Dr. Pinto, who we share a lot of interests? So,
That would be something that you would have to pursue on your own. Again, the primary focus of this is giving everyone the skills and the experiences necessary to become nurses. So if you have particular interest in pursuing research, certainly encourage you to do that. And, you know, it sounds like you already have 1 or 2 faculty members in mind. I'm sure, you know, faculty members always love to have students assist on their research and projects. They love other folks in getting them invited. So that opportunity is there, but that's something you have to pursue individually, not something we're going to tie in as part of this program.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is Katie.
Okay.
I was just wondering if you could repeat the numbers for the tuition cost.
Sure. For in-state students, $770.25 per credit hour. For out-of-state tuition, $14.38 per credit hour.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me also say we're right at an hour. If you have to go, I certainly understand. I'm willing to stay on as long as people have questions. Once again, I'll be sending a copy both of the slides, this proposed schedule, and the recording to everyone who participated. I do know a few people kind of joined us throughout the presentation. So if you do not get anything from me by tomorrow, please shoot me an email and I'd be happy to share that with you. Or, you know, if we didn't talk individually during this session, make sure that I've got your contact information so that I can send you a copy of the slides and the schedule. So, all right, other questions?
I have a question. This is Lindsay Johnson. I know you listed the courses that we would be taking the first semester. Do you know about how many credits that is for that one in the summer, to know how many credits we'd be taking without the opportunity for scholarships, so we can calculate what the cost would be for that amount of time?
Yes, ma'am. So based on the current schedule, you're scheduled to have 16 credits in the spring semester and 13 credits in the summer semester. And when I send the proposed schedule, it'll have all that written out very specifically.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Again, I'm happy to stay on as long as people have questions. I do realize we're at the hour and I want to be respectful of your time. So if you have to go off and go to either class or work or whatever, you're certainly welcome to, but I'm happy to stay on as long as people have questions.
Hi,
Yeah,
Scott.
this is Amber.
You can go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was just wondering if you could speak more about how, if someone chooses to go and do NP after this, how that might make their program a little bit smaller or shorter after that.
Quicker, right.
Yeah.
So when you complete the MEPN degree, assuming you pass the NCLEX exam and get your RN license, you'll have a master's degree. So instead of completing another master's degree to get an NP, you would enter as what's called a postmaster student. Okay, that means that you've already got a master's degree. And I'll just use an example for us. So if you were entering our FNP program as a bachelor's degree student, you know, you had your bachelor's degree, it would be a total of 47 credits and you could complete it in 8 semesters. If you started as a postmaster student, it's only 32 credits because you've already satisfied some of the classes and you could complete it in 6 semesters. So you'd be cutting off 2 semesters and 15 credits. And that's just specifically for the FNP program. You know, for psych mental health, it'll be a little bit different. For adult gerontology, it'd be a little bit different, but it would be similar. So because you're already satisfied some of those courses through the Master's Entry to Practice program, you would not need to take them during your postmaster's program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Ranges, this is Tamala Hammond.
Yes, go ahead.
If we were to finish the program, could we go straight into a specialty program after that, or would it be better if we get experience?
Typically for our postmaster's programs, we want to see people that have at least 24 months of experience. So I think it would be to your advantage to get some skill under your belt before you try to get concentration. Now, from a logistical standpoint, the postmaster's programs only start during the summer, and you wouldn't be graduating till the end of the summer. So you couldn't, enroll in one immediately anyway. So, if you graduated at the end of the summer, you'd have to wait through fall and spring to apply for the following summer, but there'd also be a time when you can start, getting your hours.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Scott, this is Mark. I have a question.
Go ahead, Mark.
This may have already been answered. I've had to kind of pop in and out of the room, but it's financially a question. If I understand right, you said that the nursing scholarship cycle has kind of come to the end as of spring semester, but that's not the same thing, not applicable for financial aid and loans. Is that correct?
Correct. So for federal financial aid, that process kind of starts anew every semester. So if you applied, let's just say if you applied for federal financial aid for the fall, that application is good for the fall and spring. If you hadn't applied for the fall, we'll just apply and that would be good for the spring. Everyone who applies needs to do a new application for the summer, regardless of whether or not you already applied for the fall and the spring. And again, for the College of Nursing scholarships, typically that schedule is students become eligible or we award it fall through summer.
I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, other questions?
I have a question. I know some programs for RNs, you complete the requirements in order to sit for the LPN, in order to start working as a nurse, as an LPN, and then continue your education in order to be able to obtain your RN. Is there some point in time during this program where we'd be able to get the LPN and then continue in the program and get our RN, but we already have sat for and have the LPN?
The short answer is I don't know. My gut feeling is probably not, because what often happens in programs like that is people get halfway through and then drop out and say, well, I'm just going to work as an LPN. And, we've tried to specifically schedule our courses and our programs so that you don't drop out halfway through. It's not specifically geared that way, and my gut feeling is they've probably even been proactive enough so that is not an option.
Okay, I was just thinking for getting a part-time to get some nursing hours in.
I understand.
For that future application.
Yeah, I understand. All right, other questions?
Hello, this is Sophia. I heard that you said that about the transfer, that even if it doesn't show it's transferring on that website, that we need to get the syllabus. Is that what I heard correct?
Just because the course you took does not appear on that transfer table does not mean that it won't transfer. It just means it has not been evaluated by the registrar's office. So what we would need, it could be that we can just look at the course and say, oh, we know that satisfies it. But in all likelihood, if it's not on the table, we're going to need to get a copy of the syllabus and say, hey, we need more detail on this. Okay. There have been several people throughout the kind of the recruiting period who said, hey, I want to take this course at such and such school. Will this work? I said, send us the syllabus. That's the only way we can tell you. Or, if you've already completed the course and it's not on that, we'll need to see the syllabus to determine what it's equivalent to and if it satisfies what we need.
Okay, so if it's a previous course, we need to contact the previous school and try to get the syllabus, is what you're saying?
Yes. And for example, I think I sent you an email earlier today, Sophia.
Yes.
Maybe this human growth and development class, because there wasn't something on your syllabus that stood out to me as, hey, this is human growth and development. So
yes, I just emailed you back. It's a lifespan wellness of nursing is what it was called.
Okay.
But I was checking and I didn't see that it transferred over, so that's why.
Okay, so that would be a great example. Get a copy of that syllabus and we'll take a look at it. One thing is you don't have to worry if it's not the syllabus from when you took the course. If you took the course 5 years ago, it can be a current syllabus. You know, the content may change slightly, but the basic tenor of what's in the course is going to be the same. So, and either your registrar's office or the department should be able to provide a syllabus for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Other questions?
Mr. Ranges, I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is Courtney. Looking at my transcript, when I previously took Human Growth and Development in undergrad, I retook it at another school, and when I did the retake at that time, it was called Psych 201. So do I just need to look on your transfer list to see if those courses will transfer in as Human Growth and Development?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And I have noticed some people have retaken a course either because they didn't do well, or maybe they want to do better, or maybe it's past that 10-year window. Well, I try to get the most current listing of that course. But I'll also say, like Sophia just mentioned, sometimes they have different titles and they're not very obvious what the same course is. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Yes, Scott. I have two questions actually, one general and one specific to me.
Okay.
So the general question I have is 3 the limit of references that we're allowed to submit?
Not at all. I mean, I would caution you against getting more than 5.
Right.
If now, one thing that sometimes happens is somebody says, hey, I've got the supervisor who really knows me well and could write a good letter of recommendation for me, but she or he is not master's prepared. That's fine. You can include them as what we call an additional or an extra recommendation, as long as you have at least 3 that are master's or doctorally prepared.
All right, that answers the other question I had. So we need so the minimum is we need to have at least 3 references that are master's or doctorally prepared.
Yes.
No exceptions. All right, thank you.
Right. And if you want to include 1 or 2 others from individuals who aren't, or maybe all 5 from somebody who's doctorally prepared, that's fine. But yeah, you need to have at least 3.
All right.
I have another question about that. How would we add that onto our application? This is Sophia, by the way.
Okay. So the application's a little confusing. You have to list, actually for you guys, I don't think you do. So you list 3 persons, their name and email address, they're automatically sent the link.
Yes.
If you want to get somebody else, then I'll have to send you the link to get an additional recommender.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not a problem.
Do it matter what the role is for the references, as long as they're masters or doctor?
Yeah, as long as they're masters or doctorally prepared, it doesn't matter if they're in the healthcare field, education field, English, math, whatever. Yeah, that's fine.
I got a final question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it says chemistry. It has to be chemistry with a lab, right? And is it like for Trident Tech, would it be like a chemistry 110?
Hold on just a second. I've got a list here of what it would be at one of the state tech colleges. So at Trident Tech, it should be Chem 105.
Okay. Okay.
And that
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that 105 would be true at any of the technical colleges, Spartanburg Tech, Greenville Tech, Midlands Tech, wherever, because they're all on the
So
same.
it's 105.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because I have 110, so I'll have to look back on it.
Sometimes, if 110 is a more advanced class, we would take it. Sometimes the numbering systems don't necessarily go in order. 110 may be actually a lower level class of 105. So we'd have to look at it specifically. I will say that the Chem 105 is the direct equivalent to our Chem 102 course.
Okay. Well, I'll have to look it up. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Okay, I have another question, Mr. Ranges. So, is there any kind of vaccination requirement if we get accepted to this program?
All admitted students, regardless of major, whether you're nursing or biology or whatever, has certain health requirements that you're required to have for the university. So there's basic stuff like that. Now, for the nursing students, you're also going to be required to get your flu vaccine as well. And there'll be some other specific healthcare, health specific requirements because you're going to be in labs. But we'll share those details with all admitted students so they've got time to start working on them prior to the start of classes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. What other questions do people have? Once again, I'm going to be sharing the copy of the slides on the recording. I'll also include a copy of the proposed schedule for the spring semester. If for some reason you don't get that by the middle of the day tomorrow, please send me a note and I will forward it to you as well. Again, I'm happy to stay on as long as people have questions, but if there are no other questions, just thank you everyone for participating and have a great afternoon. Any other questions?
No, thank you. Thank you for the information, Ms. Sierra.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'll be watching for your application.
And you said you'll send these recordings to our
I
email
should finish
address?
up my.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you said in a couple of days we should expect it?
You should get this presentation by middle of the day tomorrow at the latest.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Scott.
Yes, go ahead.
This is Kiwanza. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. So I just have a random question.
Can I give you a random answer?
I hope not.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So you know how like other nursing programs have like a white coat ceremony. I know it's a quick turnaround. So will we have like a white coat or like a stethoscope, ceremony or something like that, or no?
That's a great question. We do have both a white coat ceremony and a stethoscope ceremony for our other programs. So I suspect at some point there would be one of those. It is not specifically discussed when that would happen and which one it would be. I'll also say right now with COVID, all those ceremonies are kind of being really creative. Like some of them are online, so we do certainly want to recognize you for getting in the program and progressing through it. The question would be, when would be the best time to do that? And also when would be the safest time and way to do that?
Right. And I have one more question for you. So
sure, go ahead.
I am enrolled
class and my job for October 20th. Could I just upload that onto my application when I get that certification for CPR?
Sure, that's fine. Or if you submit your application before that, you can just send it to that email address there, the grad app email address.
You said send it to the grad app email address?
Yes, ma'am. Let me back up here. Yeah, if there's anything you want to add afterwards, you can just send it to that grad app email address.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Scott, this is Mark again.
Go ahead.
A question about transcripts. I was actually just trying to send a transcript order online, and the graduate school zip code is 29208. Is that correct?
Yes.
When I try to order that online, it says it doesn't recognize it, and says the zip code for that area is 29210. So which one should I use?
That's actually apparently at whatever school that you're using. That's an old email address, or not email, old zip code. And about 2 to 3 years ago, they updated it so all university zip code is 29208. I would say whatever you need to do to get it to that address. Now, one thing to be careful about is when the graduate school had the 29210 zip code, it was not at its current location. It was in a different building in the Burns building. So whatever you need to do to get that 1705 College Street address, do that.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
And what I would maybe even add to that, Mark, is if you're having to use the 29210 address, maybe put the graduate school, University of South Carolina, just so there's no, make sure university's in there. That way, even if it goes someplace else in Columbia, they're like, oh, this needs to go to the university.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
For the intent letter, is it a specific way do you want us to address the letter?
No, ma'am. And you don't even have to do, Dear Admissions Committee or whatever. You can just say why you're trying to do this program, how it meets your professional goals, and if there's any unique situation based on your academic background, based on your personal background, that sort of thing that you think would enhance them understanding you, then include that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Thank you for your help and time.
You're welcome. I'm glad everyone was able to participate today. Well, I'm assuming we don't have any more questions, so thanks again for participating. Hope everybody has a great afternoon, and I'll be watching for your applications. Any questions you have throughout the application or admission process, don't hesitate to reach back out. Have a great afternoon, everyone.